1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. All right.
Perfect.
We're on. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, we just for our you boys and girls at home, there was a power outage. We had this is like a third in a series of thunderstorms, lightning storms we've had here.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying solar forcing, which means we've had a number of solar flares,
Yes.
high energy particles. So just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Call it what you will. So picking up where we left off, so it is that was Monday.
Yes.
Today is Friday. So today is the 31st.
Today's the 31st.
Correct. And 2024. I didn't add the year last time.
Oh, there we go. We need
So
to
we
do
got that.
Yes.
And just to recap, date of birth, kind of your first fights,
Yes.
jitters versus, smoker. You had a chance to look at it before.
Yes.
Anything else came to your mind while you're looking at it you wanted to touch on? Before I go into
Not
mindset?
that I can think of, honestly. Like, I am letting you lead the way. I've nothing really else that I could really think
And for the record, I'm open to whatever input you have.
Yeah.
Too. So, I don't know if you showed it to Nicole or...
Not yet. I haven't showed it to her yet.
Okay, I mean, you should.
I know, I will.
I thought it was a pretty good interview.
I thought I had fun, personally.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point of
Yeah.
my doing this thing here. All right, so, then let's pick up part 2. So, we talked about your fighting, building up to it, things you want instructor.
Okay.
Because you are a professor and you are instructor.
Yeah.
From that. Mind shifts, what do you got to do?
Man, so, as in, whenever a technique is shown to you, you have to learn how to make it work just for you. You have to learn how your body adjusts to it, how it fits into your game plan. If this happens, like for me, then I can do this, this, and this. I've realized when I first started coaching full time, I started to realize that the things that I do don't apply to everybody. Whether it be because of my flexibility or because some people are stronger than I am, or they're just bigger than I am, or they're smaller than me. Things that I can just say, hey, do this, this, and this, but it's not working. Well, it works for me, so why isn't it working for you? So that was a big thing for me, understanding that I have to. I would say probably cater to a more wider audience than just myself.
Okay.
So that's the biggest thing for me.
So working on attributes that you happen to have and broadening that brushstroke to apply to other people.
Exactly.
One thing, can you sit over here? Because
Yes.
I have a feeling the lighting is better there.
Okay, sure.
Because there's a little bit of a shadow.
Yeah. All right. And now, okay, so back to
Now that we're on instructing, and so you have to kind of not tailor, but be able to expand. When I do this move, because of my body type and my archetype, I am more inclined to do it this way. However, if you're long, thin, skinny, short, tall, whatever, you would probably find yourself doing such and such.
Yes, like one of the things that I guess the thing that comes to mind for me the most is a technique called the Darce choke. I mean, personally, I know that you like that one a lot. But for those that don't know, a Darce choke is essentially a head and arm choke where you have essentially what's called a rhythmic choke grip around their neck. But one of the things I learned is when it comes to the Darce choke, I say, all right, guys, whenever you reach through with your arm, make sure you grab your bicep and you make sure you walk your hand up. I realized some people can't reach their bicep because some people that they go with, maybe their shoulders are too wide, or maybe the person has, again, I always, man was 6'10", and he said, hey, Nico, whenever I grab my bicep, I have a whole lot of room. Like, do I just go up higher? Yes. And he would have to grab all the way up to his shoulder to finish. Wow. So, like I said, depending on the person, depending on their body type, it can vary widely with different techniques.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of what I found myself. When I try to show the Darce, because you said Darce is one of the first things that really kind of spoke to me. When I was in there, and I said, wow, I can do this here, and it does come up.
Yes.
People have made a living in the Darce.
Of course.
But like you said, it's different. I found it's different in the gi. Because the gi is like Velcro.
Yes.
Versus no gi, which is like slithery snakes.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So, so you got to deal with different body types. And what about mentalities? I mean, what mentalities do you find are more, roadblocks, speed bumps, or accelerated when you have to push?
Again, the learning mentalities, how to push and pull others. That's like the physical part is easy because physical is just like, okay, I see it happening right then and there. But the mentality part, it's hard for me still because I have a hard time usually reading people, as I said. Because unless you're telling me what's happening, then it's hard for me to understand. But I've had to, but like one of the things I've learned, one of our students, Oliver, I've learned that you have to keep pushing yourself. Hey, or I can correct him. I can get on him about, details about stuff like, hey, you have to do this and this better. Or, hey, you have to correct this and this. I can do that to him. I can be kind of harsh on him, harsh in a way, or I can criticize him like that. And it's not like water off the duck's back. He doesn't just let it slide. He internalizes it and he's like, okay, I can improve on this and I know I can take this. I can carry on with this. Some people, you can't really do that. You have to understand, like I've learned that you have to, some people are just all about the positive. Say, you're doing great, you're doing awesome. Or you have to be very, not negative toward them, but it's more of, they respond more to just chastising and more to the criticism. I'm still working on that, but it's a process that I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. It also helps that I have someone like Professor Drew to kind of help me better understand the psyche of the fighters and other athletes and other students. So that's a big thing for me.
Now that feel that you're talking about seems like it would come with experience, time, diversity.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, here it's all right, which kind of segues to something I'm going to talk about. Not this next question, but the question afterwards.
Yes.
So let's talk about when you're talking about motivating, encouraging, guiding,
yes,
coaching. You have a children's course here, or a group here, and let's start with just an age difference. So you have children, and then you have the kind of the tweeners, the 17 to 19.
Yeah,
that's kind of a in flux. You're
yes,
part child, part adult, some more than others. And then once you get, I say maybe 20, 21, then you're in adulthood territory. So how do you coach, the middle, the lower section, the younger ones, versus say those tweeners I was talking about versus say the adults?
So, because with younger,
what does that mean?
What I mean is, if you try class, Little Hammers being from like, we had a little boy in that class, he just turned 4. So I'm talking 2 months ago, he was 3 years old.
Whoa.
2 months ago, he was 3 years old, and he turned 4. He's great. Love the kid to death. His name is Tucker. Just a sweet kid. And he's super excited being there. He has tons of energy. But one of the things is, if you try to be like, okay, guys, so whenever you do this, you have to have your chest down like this. You have to turn left, turn right. And then if you use, even if you use things like left and right, and again, if you use tons of details, it's just like, it's in one ear, out the other. Exactly. Okay. So even with the older kids, if you go from 9 until 13 or 14, they're still they still have tons of energy. And if you keep on breaking things down at such a minute level, there's a whole lot of stuff that there's only so much their brains can take. I'm not saying that kids aren't smart. A lot of kids are very smart. But it's just, if you overload them, then it's going to be because you're going to spend as much time teaching the technique, just at the very start, and you're also going to try to reteach it to, all the kids when they start drilling it. They're just like, I don't know where to start. I put my hand down here. No, that's the third step. Then where do I put my hand? Well, you don't even put your hand down. First, you got to go to side control. If you just like you said, you can't get lost in the details. You have to kind of, you hit broad strokes, and then you get into the details later. That's what I've kind of learned with a lot of younger kids.
Okay.
Also,
that the American karate or whatever you did, it is not your cup of tea.
Yes.
Because of probably just repetitive, occupied.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. So moving from that, is there a different approach? Do you notice a mental skill level, a physical?
So honest, really, I don't see so out off the mat, it's different. Off the mat, the little boys and girls, you see, like, for the most part, you'll see, boys tend to be, energetic, going around playing, the sports stuff, doing like the rough and tumble stuff. The girls, for the most part, doing the feminine stuff. I'm not saying that's how it is for everybody, but that's like that's
General.
that's the general population. In here though, like when it comes to the drilling, when it comes to working hard, I don't really see that much of a difference.
Okay.
One of the things I will say that when it comes to like the ones that I see that like get dedicated to it the most are
Yeah.
so for those so Charlie's about 5'0", but and like about 120, but jacked. And I've been training.
I agree. I mean, I totally agree.
Yeah.
He is.
Yes, and she's been training, and so she started off in the kids program when she was 10 years old, and with her, and she's been training with us for about 4 or 5 years. Like I said, she's 15, gonna be 16 next year, and she just had a fire about her. Just the minute she came in, I knew that okay, I could just if there's something different. Something different. And then when I saw her starting to train, she was just yes sir, no sir, and she just had a laser focus. Some kids they have just this laser focus about them. Maybe it's not like an intense. You don't see it as like an intense thing because some kids or some people in general they have just an intensity to them. Just looking. You just kind of feel it. So she's one of them. So that's just one thing. So she has like an intense energy. So another kid that I've seen that we've had here that has been training with us for about just as long. His name is Isaac. And Isaac, a little bit bigger. He's a little bit younger, but he's a lot more calm. Very calm thing. Like he might not talk. I can talk to him because I've known him for years. But usually, like whenever he gets here, he's just very, very quiet. Says, "Yeah, sure, okay." Just very, very quiet. With him, like I know that he's like I don't have to worry about saying something twice because he's already got it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that's two different. That's two like way opposite sides of the spectrum. But those are the kind of kids that I can just tell like those are the kind of kids that I really I don't have to worry about pushing them because they can push themselves.
And that's not and so that kind of takes out of the equation the gender both in either gender.
It's true.
And all right, on that, how much would you attribute to both the people you're putting their family surrounding? How much of that? Because you worked with children before,
Oh yeah,
plenty. So you can kind of get a feel for how much is.
Hard question to think about because there's always going to be outliers. There's always outliers for one or the other, with just making sure their kids are on the straight and narrow. I will say that regardless of their personalities, their differences in personality, with Charlie being a bit more intense and Isaac being very quiet. I'm just using them as just examples. I have tons of other kids that I
apologize.
Yeah, exactly. I'm apologizing to everybody out there that's watching this. All my students, I adore you all just equally, but I'm just using them as two separate people. Anyways, but no, I know both their families, and they come from. I'll say that the main thing, the main similarity between them are, they come from very loving families. Their parents are very I will say, their parents are very supportive of them doing this. And I'm not saying it's because they do this, but I'm pretty sure if they want to do something else, they'd be okay with their kid doing something else. But I would say that's a big thing. Even if your kid doesn't turn out, to be exactly like you, I think that having a healthy family life it could be very important when it comes to doing something like this, especially at such a young age. Oh yeah, because if you have a family that doesn't support you doing something you enjoy, then that could be detrimental to you loving it. If they're constantly saying stop doing this, and
Which goes into my next question. Can you tell who's being supported and who's not? And if so, what do you look for? So
the main thing that I look for is how often does a parent show up? Now, there are exceptions. Some parents have jobs or they have other commitments that they have to make.
Scheduling, yeah.
Exactly, it's scheduling. But some I've seen, whether it be here, at other gyms, it's they show an apathy towards the whole thing. It might be because they might just stay outside and just do nothing. Not even just it doesn't take I know, and there's some parents that are outside and they're doing laps around the place, which hey, that's great. I'm glad you're doing that. But again, there's some parents that it's it doesn't take much to walk into the thing. Because you're not the one who's doing the class.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of hard to be, sit there 45 minutes to an hour just staring, watching kids roll or watching your kids learn, listening to me make a bad joke. It's just like, okay, there's the same joke again, Coach Nico, get on with it. But no, that's a big thing for me. Just make, parents being present. Like, if a parent is present, I see that as even a big thing.
What risk, or have you run into where you have a parent that's over-engaged?
Parents that try to get on the mat. If in life people say that violence isn't the answer, but in my job, violence is the answer. It's also the question. but with coaching, I've learned I've also learned that I have to learn how to fuse situations. I've had to be that person sometimes. But whenever a parent tries to get on the mat, I say, I try to be very friendly. Just be like, hey, so I appreciate your your enthusiasm, but I need to have you off the mat. It's just a liability thing, that kind of stuff.
That's a good out.
Yeah. Parents, whenever.
Sign this waiver.
Exactly. Adults, when they see a waiver with paperwork, they hear the word liability, they're just like, well, that seems important and official. So I'm just going to mosey on out because he seems to know what he's talking about.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That answers that. I don't want to go too far. I want to get into the next section here. Mm-hmm. So we talked about kids and a little bit of that overlap from the tweeners. Yeah. And now we're into the adults. So again, adults, let's start with the transition.
Yes.
Difference between teaching adults, let's start with the next section of the adults, 20s to 30s. Mm-hmm. First starting, they've done maybe football or, some collegiate or high school sport, were maybe good, maybe not, but whatever they were engaged. Yes. Your approach to them as adults versus children. I mean, is there going to be similarities, differences?
So with adults, it's a bit trickier. So with adults, the thing with them is, so with kids, they don't have a choice into coming here, but they do enjoy it. But like when kids, they have a set schedule, they're just like, okay, this is happening. So I have class these 4 days. So I have to show up so I'm showing up to class. So, and their parents take them because now that's part of the parents' schedule too. Yeah. But with adults, if you want the adults to stay, they might have that first, you've seen this, I've seen this, Drew's seen this, Professor Drew. Adults, when they first start training, they're gung-ho. They show up, I'm ready to show up 5 days a week, 2 days. I'm ready to put in that work. They're gung-ho, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even a month. But then honeymoon period runs out.
Right. And
then they realize, oh gosh, my body's sore. My mind is just all out of whack. I have a headache, and you have to kind of learn. That's one of those things where you have to kind of learn to pull back on people. Like say, hey man, just kind of relax a little bit. I don't want you to burn out, because that's a big thing with adults. I mean, even with kids, but with adults, burnout is real, and you have to teach the adults, hey, we can't let that happen. One of the things that I like that Drew said is, motivation is a liar. Do not listen to motivation. Yeah, because that comes and goes. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. It's about we all everybody goes, Flint. Whether you're having a bad day or a good day, you got to be disciplined enough to show up and do your work. It's the same thing with going to work. Some people I'll be honest, I hear a lot of people complain about their jobs, but they still show up. You have regardless of how you feel about the job, you still have that discipline to show up, because you have that obligation, not only to just maybe it's not to the job, not to the company, but you have an obligation to yourself to provide for yourself, for your family, to provide for your family. So there's that, and you have to have people understand, hey, I know this is something that you enjoy doing, jiu-jitsu, striking, MMA. This is great. I'm glad you enjoy it. But if you want to get better, you have to be disciplined enough to show up and to get past those hurdles of I'm done with this. Every time they say they've had a rough day, I ask them, so tell me, every time that you've come in here, tell me you've had a good time, right? Say, yeah. Even on bad days bad days out there. Right? Yeah. What about days that you get the crap beat out of you? Or the days that you just can't get any submissions and you get tapped? Do you still have a good time? Yeah, I have a great time. I always have fun. Then why are you not showing up then, man? Like you, like seriously, like, you know,
Yeah.
of course scheduling, we know that, but like on the days that you can make it, just show up.
Make it.
Exactly, make it. Because, you know, you always show up and you learn, you're going to learn something, and plus you're going to walk out of here. Even if you walk out, you have to pay off student loans, and you have to wake up, you know, at 5 a.m. the next morning. But at the same time, for the 2 hours that you were here, the hour and a half that you were here, or even just the hour that you were here, you had a fun time. You got to move around some. You were around you were around some positive people that want to see you succeed as well, and you're wanting to push them to succeed. So everybody's building on each other. You know, then why are you trying to convince yourself not to show up? That's a big thing for adults. You have to convince them this is good for them, and you have to have them understand. Hey, I can only do so much. I'm not a guy with a like. You're not a chihuahua, and I'm not going to be able to just drag you along wherever I want, okay? I can only do so much. I can only be like, hey, I have this. You're a dog off a leash. I have a steak right here. Do you want the steak? Why are you running away from the steak? It's right here. You love steak. You have to make them understand they do love this. And they have to understand, like, you know, every time they show up, they love it. So don't, and we have to kind of get rid of that, you know, that negative voice in their head telling them, no, don't show up. Don't do it. You're sore. No, you're going to be sore anyways. Show up anyways. Just be a little bit more sore and learn something.
There you go. Stop for a second.
Yeah.
For the scenarios you described about getting people in and saying, hey, you know, it's going to be good for you, you know, sore, yes, but a good sore.
Yeah.
Now, that's the 20 to 30 crowd. Now, when you get to the 40 and above crowd, what's the approach?
Slow and steady. Like, you know, if depending on, like, you know, like the 40, you know, that's whenever, like, actually, when I started turning 25, that's when I started getting injuries. So, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, but, well, you know, like when I was 25, I started training when I was 19, and so that was about 6-7 years into my training career. So 25 was when I started, you know, like getting like more sore after training sessions. After like doing 2 days, I'd be like, oh man, I'm feeling pretty rough today. But when you get to your 40s, 50s, 60s, it's kind of understanding. It's kind of, you have to, if they don't understand how, you know, their body is after you know, training, you have to understand, hey, let's pull back a little bit. Try not to let them try to not make them push too hard. It's, you know, everybody's different, but we want to make sure that we want to make sure everybody has a good quality of life after. It's even for the younger people. We don't want them to be, you know, getting caught in submissions that would cause them to injure their elbows or injure their knees. But as you get older, you're a lot more prone to those injuries. So you have to kind of have to be very cautious with that. Now, you know, I want to make sure I don't want to baby them.
I was going to say, at the same time, you don't want to coddle them at all.
Exactly.
So it sounds to me like it's a pretty fine line between pushing and to avoid, you know, pushing to progress.
Exactly.
Versus pushing and getting injured.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's a big thing.
And that's a field thing. It goes back to the field thing again we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Right? One of the things that I would say that I would like to say I'm very proud of ACS is that, you know, we've cultivated a very good senior club, a good seniors club. Yes. No, but it's very, very good. I really like that we have a group of men and women that, you know, well into their, you know, like past their 30s and 40s, and they're still training consistently, and they're, you know, showing that, hey, even though I'm older, I'm still able to put in work, and I'm able to have fun, and I'm able to train smart and not injure myself. And if I am injured, I mean, you yourself, I mean, you had a bum shoulder for what, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
bicep.
Bicep, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shoulders and biceps for everybody. But, you know, then we had Steve and Mike with their shoulders. You know, they were still being smart about it. Like, Mike would show up and he would just watch. Steve, again, would show up, watch, and again, they would just drill or they would do core work. And then eventually they started going slow on, you know, training again. So that's something that I would say. I would say that I'm very happy to see that we have this growing group of men and women that are willing to put in that work at an older age.
So now that you brought that up,
Yeah.
men and women. So we have the 40s and above men and women we're talking about.
Yes.
Differences in approaching the genders at that age.
I would say with most guys, you can be very, I would say with a lot of the guys, that's very different. It's a very hard question to answer. Because again,
that's why I asked.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that. Thank you, Eric. Yeah. No, it's still the same thing with kids. Like it could be, it varies from person to person. We have people that are older that we had with Carla. I can just talk to her like any other person. I can be very direct with her. Be like, hey, Carla, we got to get in work. We have to you have to get in here. You have to do this, and this. And it's like, okay, I can do that. With some people, again, you can't really do that. It's again, I can't really give a direct answer with it.
But it doesn't sound like it's a gender specific thing.
No.
It's again a individual.
It's a case by case basis. That's how it all. I don't try to. Whenever I meet someone new or I'm training somebody, if it's whether it be in a class or whether it be one-on-one, I don't want to make assumptions right off the bat. I always try to take things case by case. Mind you, sometimes there's going to be some grouping, but for the most part, I understand that everybody's it's a cliche, I know, but everybody's different. Everybody's their own person.
Yeah, and I would add to that, anybody who's going to walk through that door to do this, there's some common thread.
There is.
Yeah, there's some common desire, whatever. You can call it motivation. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But so for them to walk through the door means they're looking for that thing, something. And that, to me, is the common thread. It looks to me to be the common thread. Now, what happens after that when they walk in the door, maybe I prefer to do katas. Maybe I prefer to do weaponry. Maybe I prefer to do, maybe I like this.
Yeah.
I never thought my daughter would get into MMA.
Yeah.
And kickboxing. She loves it.
Yeah.
But, great. I'm like, fantastic. And who knew that was going to happen?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to my next topic here. Let's talk about, so we got here, it's MMA, BJJ, gi and no gi.
Yes.
And once a month, we do some weaponry.
Yes.
And
run by Eric Naus, just Eric Naus, just so you know.
Stop it. So let's talk about self-defense. I mean, what we do here primarily is ring fighting, what I call ring fighting.
Yes.
It's controlled to a point. I mean,
Yes.
you're allowed to go nuts in the ring within, certain parameters.
Yes.
But it's one-on-one. And you can make a case for any one of them. I say, I hear Shotokan or Sambo or BJJ or MMA, ultimate, self-defense.
Yes.
Where do you stand on some of this self-defense stuff in regards to what we do here and what you see around? How would you approach that where would you stand on that?
So as far as what we do, I'm always gonna sing the high praises of ACS. Because I've been training here. This was my first home gym, and it was the first MMA gym I walked into. Period. Not martial arts, but MMA gym. And so I will always.
Now, is it the only MMA gym you've walked in?
No, okay. I've trained all around Houston. I've gone to dozens of gyms.
Okay.
And I've even trained in Florida, Vegas. I've trained around there. But ACS was the very first. And I would like to say, the things that we train, you'll see that I would say that they can be more applicable to self-defense than a lot of things, because a lot of other places. Some places, they focus mostly on the sport aspect.
Competition?
Of competition, which, that's great. I mean, you want, the BJJ as a sport, for a lot of people, it's a lot of fun. But I like the self-defense aspect of it. You know, I think that if you're training to learn how to do BJJ or to do MMA as like in a fight, like maybe not, you don't want to learn how to fight. I mean, you don't want to eventually train to fight. You don't want to go fight in a cage. Maybe that's something you want to do. But I think that learning how to, like training in MMA, learning how to do stand-up, you know, striking, you know, kickboxing, having a good ground game with BJJ, having good takedowns with wrestling, learning how to take down people against a wall, or learning how to get back up if you are taken down. I feel like if you're doing MMA, that's going to be the thing that is going to be best for a self-defense scenario, because it's putting everything together. I mean, everything, you know, has their strengths and weaknesses. I feel that MMA is probably one of the best catch-alls if you're wanting to get that. If you want to get that feeling, you know, BJJ has the great ground game. Judo and wrestling, you're able to take people down very easily, whether it be, you know, through throws or just, you know, your double legs, your sit-throughs, all that stuff. And I think just with pure, again, with putting those things together, and I would say probably the most important thing is just learning how to get back up. Because most people, if people have seen street fights before, they see the person who gets put onto the ground first is probably the person that's going to lose. Because once you put on your back, if you get a normal average Joe out there, like two average Joes that just do like some just barnyard brawl, the guy that gets, you know, if they just, you know, start swinging each other around, the person that gets up on their back is probably going to be the one that loses, because they don't know how to effectively get up. They don't know how to, you know, post their hand out, step back, keep your hands high, you know, using a wall, learning how to use a wall to stand up. You know, there's all these little fine details that people don't understand.
Oh, good. Keep going. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. There's these things that, like I said, you know, the average person doesn't know how to use these nuances. And I feel that MMA is going to be an all-encompassing thing, like I said.
Yeah, and I agree with that. My only caveat to just any ring fighting in general, and I say this all the time in my class, is that it's never one-on-one.
Oh, yes, exactly.
And and getting off the ground, it's to me like probably one of the most, you know, key things.
Yes.
Because if you're on the ground, even if you're in side control, top side control, or mount, your head's a soccer ball.
Exactly.
At that point for his buddies,
yes,
their buddies.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
Yes.
Now, what would you say to because when it comes to self-defense, you know, we're in the state of Texas, so a lot of people have guns. A lot of people have, you know, different ways of protecting themselves.
Yes.
I'm a contractor or subcontractor, so I work at job sites all the time. Everybody, the plumber, the electrician, the drywallers, the guy sweeping up the floor at the end of the day, everybody has something sharp.
Yes.
Whether it's a knife, whether it's a box cutter, whether it's a carpenter's knife, whatever it is, a razor blade.
Yes.
Everybody has something sharp. So you could say, all right, they have, you know, their self-defense kind of as part of the work, which it is. But what would you say to those people who say, well, we shouldn't really worry about, you know, self-defense, because that's what the police are for. That's what the government's for. We should not, you know, that shouldn't even be anywhere on the radar.
That is something that we had back in 1776. We were under a government, and we had to learn how to defend ourselves. That's the first thing I'll say. We as a people, like, we need to learn how to be able to keep ourselves safe, even though there might be people out there that can protect us, police officers, Army, Air Force, whatever. If you learn to rely on just them, you become complacent, and if something bad happens, what next? I'm of the mindset of like anybody who does concealed carry. Better to have it and not need it. I don't. People who say for self-defense, if you have whether it be if you have a gun on you, or for self-defense, of course, or if you learn martial arts for self-defense, if you have that mindset of, well, I don't need to learn that because there's people around me that can keep myself safe. Well, if you have that kind of mentality, that it could spray to other people. And again, that's just it's going to make everybody just complacent. And I don't agree. I don't like that. I don't like that kind of mindset, and I don't agree with that kind of mindset. I mean,
because it adds to complacency.
Exactly. And I feel that as society, I feel that it's important for everybody to learn how to actually. I fully believe that this will come back to MMA. Martial arts is for anyone, but not everyone is going to want to do it. Because anyone can show up, and literally anybody can show up and learn how to defend themselves, but not everyone will want to. Because whether it's because scheduling or because their beliefs or something along those lines, but I do think that you could take any person off the street if you can convince them to. You bring them into the gym, you can teach them how to defend themselves. I truly believe that, and they will be better for it. But it's like you can't lead a horse to water. Not everybody
can't make them drink.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't like, but just to answer the question, I don't agree with people that say, as far as self-defense goes, we have the police, we have armed forces to do that. Are they like? They aren't. We don't have police officers at our front door, at every door. We don't have them at every street corner. We don't even have them on every street. If you're going to have that mind of we have to rely on another person to keep us safe, you have to learn to be able to rely on yourself. You really, you have to be able to learn how. If you can rely on yourself, great. But if things get out of hand, yeah, sure, call the police, call somebody to help. But like, if you're in trouble, you're the one who's in trouble. You gotta learn. You gotta be able to keep yourself safe. And if you have a family, you have to learn how to keep your family safe as well.
Oh yeah, they're counting on it.
Exactly.
Okay, last question.
Sure.
Life after the ring. Coming up.
Yeah.
At some point to a theater near you.
Yeah. That's something that I've thought about more recently. So my main thing was like when I was like, of course, as you're young, when you're like, between like 19 to 25, that you think that you are straight up invincible. Nothing can touch you. So at that time, I was thinking that I'm going to keep doing this till I'm 50, till I'm 60. I'm going to keep fighting for as long as possible. But now I'm 30. Again, like I said I'm 33 right now. I'm a day older. I'm a few days older than whenever the last interview was. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually a bit more sore as well from the week. But after the fighting, what I want to do is I want to focus on, because I'm with someone, who I've been seeing for about a year now, and I'm very, very happy with her, Nicole. And mm-hmm. She has a little girl named Autumn who I love. I've loved both of them dearly. And, my main thing is, focusing on the family aspect. I also want to look at growing ACS and possibly branching out. Mm. I want to be able to teach. I want to put right now I'm not spreading thin, but I'm spread apart. I'm in the coaching. I have a few eggs in the coaching. I have a few eggs in the basket for fighting. After I finish up with fighting, I'm going to put all of it into the coaching because I want to be able to. I don't want to rest my laurels on what I did in the past. Sure, it'll be fun to look. I want to look back on the past fondly. I want to be able to look back on the fights that I had, the friends that I've made. Well, I will continue to make friends. I want to have these great memories. Mm. But I also want to see these young kids, men and women, growing and improving, whether it be in jiu-jitsu, MMA, or just in life in general. Yeah. That's where I see myself. And if I can't really let's say my body just completely shuts down and I'm not able to train anymore, I can always fall back on school. I can go to finish up my degree and I'll go into teaching. And again, still instructing. Right. So that's something, but regardless of what I do, I feel like, instructing something in some way, some shape or form, whether it be in whether it be in martial arts or whether it be in mathematics or school or high school. Like I will always feel that like being an instructor is going to be something that I will always do.
Nice. All right, let's end on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ooh, that was good. Just in time too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Having all these
distractions.
Exactly.
Yeah, really. Let me have your mic.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
That was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I mean, it's your reaction to the self-defense thing. I be honest with you, I do that deliberately because I know most people who are into martial arts what their reaction is.
Yeah.
You should have seen Steve's.
Like
Steve Yant.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you. I'll show you a clip of it. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'll send you a little teaser on that.
Yes, please.
But your response was kind of what I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, because you're trying to be nice, but at the same time, let's be realistic.
Yeah. I can imagine Steve was a bit more blunt and a bit more straightforward about it.
Oh, yeah. All right, signing off here.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Eric. That was a real lot of fun. Thank you.
That was.
I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Yeah, I'll do it this weekend.
Is it okay if I can post that first half of it?
Sure, if you want.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.